Now, one attempt at going straight was going into an adult bookstore. I thought something there might finally jolt me into being a normal, heterosexual male. I was 19 and terrified. I drove to another town so that no one would see me. I sat in my car for about 20 minutes before I finally got out. As I reached the entrance and put my hands on the door, a little voice inside said, "Whatever innocence and imagination you may have left about sex will be lost forever." I didn't have a clue as to what that meant. The guy behind the counter briefly looked up from his magazine, scanned me up and down, and after assuming I was over 18 or just didn't give a crap, went back to his magazine. I nervously started to walk around, looking at the video jackets of literally thousands of porn flicks. I had no idea that there were so many, much less categories. Porn has categories. Man on man, woman on woman, two men, one woman, two men, one man. Gangbangs and big breasts and big dicks and little dicks. Chicks with dicks. Well, the list goes on and on. Now, at the back of the store was a separate room with the words "Video Arcade" above the entrance. I chuckled to myself. What? Donkey Kong does Miss Pac-Man? Now, the room was dark and broken up with a dozen or so stall-like booths without doors. I stepped into one of the booths, turned to the right, and then turned to the right again. Now, in front of me was a TV screen flush with the wall, and at my feet were little piles of tissues. Now, I had the option of using special tokens or $1 bills. I didn't have any tokens, and the thought of walking all the way back to the counter and actually having to engage in conversation with that guy, I probably would have just kept right on walking out the door. So I took out my wallet, and I took out a $1 bill from my wallet, and I stuck it into the slot next to the screen. The machine sucked it in, and for a split second, I wondered what I was in for. Could what I'm about to see really impact me to the point that there would be no turning back? The sounds of moans, sweaty flesh smacking together, and the suction of intercourse broke my train of thought. On the screen was this average-looking man fiercely ramming the heck out of this woman. He was riding her like she was Seabiscuit in the Kentucky Derby. Oh, and this filly was past the point of being turned into glue. She looked like she had been ridden around the track a few thousand times. And I don't know if she got a bad boob job or could only afford to get one done. Because, well, her right breast was kind of hanging off to the side, kind of hiding in her right armpit. But that left breast, it didn't move. I had only watched about 30 seconds of my left breast when I felt a presence in the booth. A second or two later, I knew I wasn't alone, because that presence was now feeling my ass. I looked over my right shoulder, and standing behind me was this tall, big, hairy man staring back at me. I turned my head back around, and I thought, oh my goodness, it's Grizzly Adams. I looked back at him again. He opened his mouth, and he made this odd sound like it was coming from the back of his throat. It sounded like... I quickly turned my head back around to face the screen, and I thought, holy crap! He's a Wookiee! A Wookiee with his hairy hand on my... Oh! Make that two hairy hands on my ass! Chewbacca here wants to use the Force to get to my lightsaber, not to mention penetrating my Han Solo and land me! I knew I had to do something quick. Boy, I was gonna tell this guy off. I completely turned around, forcing him to release his tractor beam grip on my buttocks. I looked Chewie right in the eyes, and with a stern, direct, and articulate voice I said, "No, thank you." He blinked a couple of times. "Really? No." Chewie reluctantly drifted back into the dark side. I turned back around to face the screen, and by this time it had turned off. I was so freaked out by what had just happened, I thought about leaving. Instead, I took out my wallet, took out another dollar bill, and fed it into the slot. The screen came to life again with the same act that was being performed just a few seconds before. That same left breast was still staring at me, unwavering in its stance. It was almost as if it was challenging me, taunting, laughing at me. Quite frankly, it scared me. I used the selection button to scan through the other channels that were playing until I came upon an image that had truly halted my breath. It was of two men kissing. They were bound together in a passionate embrace. It was alive. I felt alive. And then it went black again. I could have put more money into the slot and watched the rest of their act, but I wanted to maintain that image of two men completely, totally, and passionately in love with each other. Some people have Casablanca, The Way We Were, or even Titanic. I had Lord of the Cock Rings.